I'm Tony Robinson of Restoration of Torah Ministries, and we're here to teach again on Revelation chapter 12, that all and most important chapter from Revelation 12. And we're searching for the man-child. This time we're searching for the man-child, okay? We've already determined who the woman is. The woman of Revelation 12 is the nation of Israel. So let's see if we can find out who the man-child is. So who is the man-child? And how are we going to be able to identify who he is? And it may seem like it's a difficult task at first, but it's really not as difficult as it may seem. It's very easy. This is what we're going to do. We're going to search for someone who fulfills the entire prophecy of Revelation chapter 12, the entire prophecy. We've got it written before us, and we're not going to settle for anyone who doesn't fulfill all of the prophecy of Revelation 12. Similar to what we did with the woman, right? So we saw that Mary, the mother of Jesus, of Yeshua, or the church, that it was impossible that they could fulfill every aspect of the woman mentioned in Revelation chapter 12. Yes, there were maybe 2 or 3 connections, but the bulk of the prophecy about the woman could not be fulfilled by Mary, the mother of Yeshua, nor the church. So we'll do the same thing with the man-child. So I've identified, I think it's about 16 themes in the book of in Revelation chapter 12 that are associated with the man-child. There are about 16 themes, I believe. So we're going to go through them one by one and see. We're specifically going to look and see if Yeshua fulfills those, because most people believe that the man-child is either Yeshua or the church. So we're going to start off with Yeshua. And if you remember, I think it was in my first podcast, episode 1, we talked about how most pastors and Bible translators think that the man-child is Yeshua. For instance, the translators of the New King James Bible, it's obvious that they think the man-child is Yeshua, because when you read Revelation chapter 12 in the New King James Version, let's see here where it says in verse 5, Revelation 12:5, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with an rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God. In both instances, that word child is capitalized. Aha. So we know they think it's Yeshua. So anyway, what I would suggest is this: should not the man-child of Revelation chapter 12, should he not fulfill all and every and all themes associated with the man-child? I think so, right? So we know the woman is the nation of Israel, right? We know the woman is the nation of Israel. So that narrows our choices to someone from the nation of Israel. The man-child has to be from the nation of Israel, of that stock and of that lineage. And so let's take inventory, the 16 themes. So let's look at theme number 1. Revelation 12, 1-2, it says, now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. Okay, so the first identifier of the man-child is that the nation of Israel is the woman who gives birth to the man-child. And so we could say, yes, Yeshua is obviously a son of the nation of Israel. So there's one theme right there that where Yeshua matches what's listed in Revelation 12. Let's go for another one. How about Revelation 12:5? It says, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations. And so from this verse, we learn that the child born to the woman is a male baby. And so, yes, Yeshua is a male. So, again, we have two clear criteria being met here by Yeshua. So far, so good. We've got 2 themes under our belt. Luke 2, 6-7 talks about, verse 7 talks about how she brought forth her firstborn son. All right, so let's try theme number 3. That's from Revelation 12:5 also. It says, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. So from that verse, we learn that this male child is to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Okay? And Yeshua fulfills that also, because Yeshua prophetically, Psalm 2, verses 8 through 9, let's look at verse 9. It says, now, just to let you know, remind you, Psalm 2 is a messianic psalm, okay? It is a messianic psalm if ever there was one. And in verse 9 it says, you shall break them with a rod of iron, you shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. And that's the verse that's being referred to in Revelation 12:5, where it says that the man-child will rule the nations with a rod of iron. And also in Revelation 19:15, it says, now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should strike the nations, and he himself will rule them with a rod of iron. So again, this is our third theme that we can definitely say, yes, Yeshua fulfills this. I mean, these are literal fulfillments of Revelation chapter 12. They literally can be applied to Yeshua. And this is the main reason why most people think that the man-child is Yeshua, especially this third theme that I found right here. Okay, so far we've seen 3 literal correlations out of the 16 between Yeshua and the man-child. But based on these, most people, and even as I said, our translators of the New King James, they think that this is Yeshua. But guess what? There are not any more literal connections between Yeshua, Jesus, and the man-child. All right. In other words, of the 16 themes that I've identified in Revelation chapter 12, only 3 of them have literal connections to Yeshua. So, again, 3 out of 16 is not exactly firm ground to stand upon to say, oh, the man-child is Yeshua. You see what I'm getting at here? Right? You see what I'm getting at here? People have been a little lazy with the exegesis here. We're not being diligent, right? But I tell you what, though. I've said that so far we have 3 literal connections. I'm going to be gracious, and I'm going to allow for non-literal correlations also, because they are important. In other words, we're going to allow for thematic correlations as well as literal correlations. Now, once I open up to thematic correlations as well as literal correlations, then we can get more than 3. So let's see what happens now. Let's look at theme number 4 from Revelation 12:4. It says, his tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. Okay, so the context indicates that the devil tried to kill the man-child immediately upon his birth. Immediately. You see that? The dragon was standing before the woman. He was right there. I mean, she was on the birthing stool. He was right there ready to pounce on the child. That's what Revelation 12 says. But guess what? That's not what happened with Yeshua. The devil did not try to kill Yeshua immediately upon his birth. It was months later, because remember, the decree went forth from Herod to have all of the male children in Bethlehem and the surrounding areas killed. Matthew 2:16. Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was exceedingly angry, and he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its districts from 2 years old and under. And again, what I'm saying here is that Yeshua is not literally fulfilling that. Now, some of you may say, well, Tony, you're being a little legalistic here. No, I'm not being legalistic. But guess what? an attempt was made, right, on Yeshua, a young male child, right? So I'm going to grant that, yes, thematically there is a match, but I'm going to grant that with the caveat that this is not a literal correlation. This is a thematic correlation. It's thematic in the sense that Revelation 12:4 tells us that the devil tried to destroy the man-child immediately at his birth, and that was not the case with Yeshua. The devil tried to snuff his life out later on, but we'll grant that because Tony Robinson is gracious. All right, how about theme number 5? All right, Revelation 12:5. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Now, watch this, guys. The context indicates that it is the catching up of the child at his birth, immediately after his birth, by Adonai, that saved the man-child from the enemy's evil designs, right? Because remember, the devil was right there immediately. He was right there in front of the woman waiting to devour that child immediately. But it says that her child was caught up to God and his throne. So what's happening here is that the male child of Revelation 12 is saved by Adonai. He's delivered from the devil's clutches. How? By being caught up to God's throne. That's how he was delivered, and it happened immediately at his birth. Well, Adonai did not save Yeshua from the devil's evil design immediately upon his birth, but he did save him from the devil's evil designs months later after his birth, as well as many other times during his life as an adult. So the scriptures inform us that. So Matthew 2:16, he put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and all its districts from 2 years old and under. Why 2 years old and under? Because Yeshua had already been born and was already a small baby. It had been months since he had been born, and Herod was trying to make sure that he killed the child. So, but guess what? Because I'm gracious, Adonai did save Yeshua from the devil. So thematically, yes, there is a match. But guess what, my friends? He did not save Yeshua from the devil immediately after he was born. It was months later. All right. How about the 6th theme? The woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God. Revelation 12:6. So after giving birth to her man-child, it says that the woman fled into the wilderness because the devil tried to persecute her. And as a matter of fact, when you read Revelation chapter 12, it's very obvious that the reason why the devil tried to persecute the woman is because he could not destroy the man-child. The man-child was caught up to heaven, and because he was caught up to heaven, he couldn't get to him, and so he turned his attention to the woman. Well, in the Gospels, when we read of Yeshua's birth, right? Okay, we're trying to see if Yeshua could be the man-child, and if he's the man-child, he's got to fulfill all of the correlations in Revelation 12. But Mary fled to Egypt. She didn't flee to the wilderness. First of all, the devil didn't try to destroy her baby immediately upon birth. Adonai did not save Yeshua immediately upon his birth. And then now, after Mary, she fled to Egypt. She didn't flee to the wilderness, right? She didn't flee to the wilderness. So Matthew 2:13, arise, take the young child and his mother and flee to, does it say the wilderness? No, it says to Egypt. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him, right? So Mary did flee. All right. So again, I'm being gracious. So what can I say here? There is a thematic correlation, though. And these thematic correlations are important, by the way. And as I continue this teaching, you'll see how important they are. But for right now, it's not a literal correlation, but I will grant that just as the man-child of Revelation chapter 12, just as his mother fled into the wilderness after his birth, so likewise Yeshua's mother had to flee to Egypt sometime after his birth, a lot longer after his birth. All right, how about the seventh connection? So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman. Okay, so because the man-child was delivered from the devil's clutches, the devil turned his attention to trying to destroy the woman. Now, remember, the woman is the nation of Israel, right? Okay, we know the woman's the nation of Israel. The woman's not Mary. So we need to ask ourselves a question. Do we read anywhere in the gospel about the fact that the devil tried to destroy the nation of Israel or persecute the nation of Israel after Yeshua's birth? No. After Yeshua escaped, the devil did not try to destroy the woman, the nation of Israel. Okay, so that didn't happen. Now, it did happen like in 70 CE, but that was decades after Yeshua's deliverance from Herod. So thematically, anyway, we're running out of thematic matches here. We had three literal correlations, and then we had three thematic correlations, right? With Yeshua and the man-child. But guess what? Out of the 16, there are no more literal connections, right? And there's only one more thematic connection that we'll get to later between Yeshua and the man-child of Revelation 12. We can't find any more connections between Yeshua and the man-child in the remainder of the 16 connections. So far we found 6, 3 literal and 3 thematic. If the man-child is Yeshua, he should fit and fulfill the entire prophecy. We can't just pick three literal correlations and ignore the remaining 16, the remaining 13. Nor can we just pick 6 connections and ignore the remaining 10. So let's look at some more connections here. Some more themes identifying the man-child that Yeshua simply does not fulfill. Okay, Revelation 12, 7 through 8. It says, a war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. In other words, the catching away of the man-child, if you read Revelation 12, 5 through 8, it is the catching away of the man-child. Number one, that was the event that saved him from the devil. And number two, the catching away of the man-child is the event that happened immediately after his birth. And it triggered or initiated a war in heaven between the devil and his angels and Adonai's angels, right? So the salvation of that man-child, his being caught up, is the event that catalyzed or triggered a war in heaven. Do we read anywhere in the Gospels that at Yeshua's birth, number one, that he was saved by being caught up to heaven? No. Right? Or that there was a war initiated in heaven between the devil and his angels and Adonai and his angels? No, we don't. So again, that aspect of the prophecy of Revelation 12 is not fulfilled in Yeshua's life at all. How about theme number 9? Revelation 12:9. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So here we read that as a result of the man-child being snatched up to heaven, the devil initiated a war in heaven, and then the devil was cast out of heaven to the earth as a result of losing a war which he started in heaven because he could not kill the male child immediately upon his birth. None of that happened in the Gospels. Was the devil cast out of heaven to the earth as a result of a war in heaven that was initiated because Yeshua was saved from his clutches by being caught away up to heaven immediately after his birth? No, right? So you see how All we need to do is look to see, did Yeshua fulfill all of these identifying characteristics of the man-child? And no, he did not. How about this? Revelation 12:14. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place. So this verse teaches us that as a result of the man-child escaping the devil's evil designs at his birth, the devil persecuted the woman, the nation of Israel, but she was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness. So I have a question for you. Was the nation of Israel given 2 wings of a great eagle so that it could fly into the wilderness as a result of the devil persecuting her because Yeshua escaped his evil designs immediately after his birth? No, we don't read of that at all. How about correlation number 11? Revelation 12:14, it says, but the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place. And it says, where she is nourished for a time, times and a half time, and that would be 3.5 years. So this verse is teaching us that as a result of the man-child escaping the devil's evil designs at his birth, the devil persecuted the woman, who's the nation of Israel. But she was nourished or provided for by Adonai for 3.5 years in the wilderness. So again, I ask you this question. Was the nation of Israel given 2 wings of a great eagle so that she could fly into the wilderness and be nourished for 3.5 years as a result of the devil persecuting her because Yeshua escaped the devil's evil designs immediately after his birth? And again, the answer would be no. And so as you see, Yeshua as a choice for the man-child is striking out miserably once we get past the 3 literal correlations and the 3 thematic correlations. How about Revelation 12:15? So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. All right. As a result of the man-child escaping the devil's evil designs at his birth, the devil persecuted the woman, the nation of Israel, by spewing water out of his mouth to cause her to be carried away by the flood. Okay. So the question is, do we read anything in the Gospels or anything in the apostolic writings that bears any semblance to the devil spewing water out of his mouth to try to carry the woman, the nation of Israel, away by a flood? As a result of, and it has to be as a result of Yeshua escaping the devil's evil designs at his birth. That's the key. That's the key. And of course, the answer is, again, a resounding no. All right, let's look at the 13th theme. Revelation 12:15 again. All right, so the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. Now, here's a little different twist on this. As a result of the man-child escaping the devil's evil designs at his birth, the devil persecuted the woman, the nation of Israel, by spewing water out of his mouth. Okay, oops, I'm looking at the same one. By spewing water out of his mouth. And it says to cause her to be carried away by the flood. But notice what it says. But Adonai delivered the woman by having the earth swallow the water. So the question I have to ask you is, did Adonai have the earth literally or figuratively swallow water that was spewed out of the devil's mouth after the woman, the nation of Israel, was fleeing from him? Again, the answer is no. Okay, the answer is no. All right. I've got a little confused on my notes here. I can't remember if this is 13, 14, or 15. Anyhow, this is 15. Hopefully that's correct. How about Revelation 12:17? And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring. And it says her offspring are those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Yeshua Messiah. Okay, so as a result of the man-child escaping the devil's evil designs at his birth and the inability of the devil to destroy the woman in the desert, the devil then persecuted the remnant of the woman's seed. And again, we read of no such thing in the Gospels. Okay, I think I've got 15 themes, not 16. So we're going to call this one theme number 15 right here. Revelation 12:13 through 14. Now, when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time, times and a half time from the presence of the serpent. Here we learn that as a result of his inability to destroy the man child at his birth, the devil will initiate the Great Tribulation, a period of a time, times and a half time. So as you read through Revelation chapter 12, it becomes abundantly obvious that the event of the Great Tribulation is triggered by this event of the birth of the man-child. And literally what happens is the man-child is born, the devil is waiting, trying to destroy him at his birth, Revelation 12:4. In Revelation 12:5, as he waits for the child to be born to destroy it, the child is immediately caught up to God, right? And then as a result of that, the woman flees into the wilderness. And she's going to be there 1,260 days. That's in verse 6. It talks about that, then it says that the devil, because he could not get to the man-child, turned his attention to the woman. And it goes on to say, first of all, before he turned his attention to the woman, he tried to go. All right, so remember, the man-child was caught up to heaven. What did the devil do? The devil went up into heaven to fight. So the man-child was born, and he was trying to kill it at his birth. It was snatched up to God's throne, which is in heaven. So what does Satan do? He goes up to heaven. And to me, it's obvious he's still trying to get at this male child in heaven. And as a result of him going to heaven to try to kill the male child, he gets into a war with the angels of God. They cast him down to the earth, right? And when they cast him down to the earth, he now turns his attention to the woman, the nation of Israel, for a period of 1,260 days, or a time, times, and half a time. In other words, the events that we read about in Revelation 12, 1 through 9, are the events that initiate the Great Tribulation. And so to say that Yeshua is the man-child, and that Revelation 12, 1 through 5 is speaking about his birth. Do you see how anachronistic this is? This is anachronistic. That was 2,000 years ago. And that event has nothing to do with when the tribulation starts, the period of a time, times and a half time. That was 2,000 years ago. And so again, as we see, we cannot just make Yeshua fit this prophecy. There may be 3 literal correlations, 3 or 4 thematic correlations, and that's it. Okay, that is it. And so what we've done here is we've shown that Yeshua cannot be the man-child. We can't just say, that Yeshua is the man-child and have child in capital letters in the Bible, just because he fit 3 out of about 15 different themes associated with the man-child. So now the question is, who is the man-child? So in our next episode, we're actually going to need 2 more episodes to get to the man-child. But what I'm going to do in the next episode, guess what? I'm going to suggest someone to be the man-child. Now, this person is not the man-child, but what I want to do is I want to show you how there is a particular person in the Bible who fulfills probably a little, either half or more than half of the prophecy of Revelation chapter 12. So unlike Yeshua, actually it is more than half. So unlike Yeshua, who only literally fulfilled 3 of the characteristics of the man-child, but he fulfilled another 3 thematic ones. So let's give Yeshua 6 total connections to the man-child. There's actually someone in the Bible who fulfills more than Yeshua did. And I'm going to leave that up to you to think about until my next podcast episode. So I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to our discussions on Revelation, on the book of Revelation. May Adonai bless you in the mighty name of Yeshua, and may he open your eyes to behold wondrous things from his Torah.